As a developer, you're judged by one thing, your ability to get code into production. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're doing your own coding or you're working for a business. If you can't get stuff into production, you're dead in the water. Regardless of all the other stuff you've got to do, the meetings, the emails, the tasks, you've got to get your code into production as fast as you can. So what it comes down to, if your code isn't in the wild, out in the world, then it's useless. I remember working with a guy, and in the space of 18 months, he didn't deliver anything to production. The business ended up sacking him. They bought him a large mocker and was like, thanks, but no thanks, and shipped him on his way. He didn't even get a notice period. So how can you be more productive as a developer? Well, I have 4 tips that I think will help you become more productive and help you basically focus on the craft of writing good code and then getting that out to the world. Stick around for number 4, because I think that's the most important, regardless of what you do as a living. I think it's just overall massively important towards your life. So here are the top tips that I've found that's helped keep me focused working as a senior developer for a FTSE 100 company and running my own businesses at the same time. So number 1 is removing distractions. So if you can remove distractions, I reckon that'll give you sort of a 50% boost than sort of any other tactic you could really do. In the corporate world, even more so with this in the software world, we seem to be having more and more meetings. Things like the agile framework actually give you more distractions, and they actually help as a developer. You know, they're meant to boost your productivity, but in fact, I think it's the opposite. And if you followed me on Twitter or X for a while, you've probably seen me tweet about this and calling it the agile framework, about, you know, snapping on handcuffs and constraining you and giving your developer autonomy, when in fact, it's more about them controlling you and you've just got buy into it. So there's a great article by Paul Graham of Y Combinator fame. He talks about the maker's schedule against the manager's schedule. And ultimately, as a developer, we want to get into deep work and do deep work, but these managers' schedules keep coming in and sort of buffering and breaking our flow. So it's all about managing that. So I'm going to run through the 3 biggest distractions and what you can do about them. So the first distraction is email. Now, email is one of the greatest inventions of all time, but it's also can be one of the biggest wastes of time. So the best thing you can do, once or twice a day, respond to emails and say only look at it at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. and then respond. Set up an autoresponder, and Tim Ferriss has got a great strategy for this. Is you set up an autoresponder telling people that you're doing this. And a couple of hacks that I've started doing as well. It's more of a rule, I suppose, than a hack. If you're CC'd or BCC'd into an email, just don't even read it, just delete it. The email isn't directed to you. Do you even need to know about it? And I've gone one step further than that. If someone sends you an email and you're in the to field, and the email starts with, can someone look into X? Just delete it. It's not directed at you. They're willing to interrupt as many people as possible. So the best thing you can do is ignore it and just move on with what you should be doing and writing amazing code. So the second thing that you need to sort of limit is these communication apps. I hate Slack. I said it. Don't get me started on Microsoft Teams. These communication apps like email, but on steroids, and people can send you all sorts of stuff at the click of a button. And the worst thing about them is they can see that you're online. They see whether you're online or not. What seems to be the issue is people have gone, email's a problem, we'll use a messaging app instead. So the answer to email isn't more messages, and these messages are even more shorter, they're more conversational, and it's not the answer. People need to be more considerate of your time. So what I do with like Slack and Teams, I apply the same sort of strategy I do with email, is I shut them down, set your status to away, or tell you that I'm focusing or whatever. So people just respect your time and you can just do deep work for hours at a time instead of all these interruptions. And the third thing I think that's the biggest distraction is mobile phones. Modern smartphones are amazing and awful in equal measures. But my top tip is basically get your phone, put it into airplane mode, and just go and put it in another room. So if you work from home, go and put it in another room, in your living room, in your bedroom. If you're still working in an office, put it in your desk drawer, put it in your coat pocket, you know, put it in a bag out of the way. Just get it out the line of sight. Once you know it's there, you'll start looking at it. But these notifications will just steal your attention. So get rid of that as much as possible. So tip number 2 to be more productive. This is about getting organized. Unfortunately, we think our brains are storage devices, but they're not. They're not a hard drive where you can store all the information at. They're the processor. It's great to be able to recall a quote or whatever we need to at will. That doesn't mean we should, or that our brains have got this sort of infinite amount of storage. They haven't. They're a very, very small sort of storage device. So you need a way to manage your workload, whether that's professionally or personally, it doesn't matter. Getting organized is a superpower. So if you can't manage it, you can't measure it, and you can't improve it. I have a brain dump system where anything that comes up, whether I'm scrolling on my phone, reading an article, whatever I'm trying to do, even if it's a piece of paper you carry around in your pocket or a post-it note, it doesn't matter. Just basically going, right, get that down. And then what I do is I've got this sort of inbox where I can then use Notion on my phone, on my computer, and just save it into this inbox. So I can use it for like a future reference and a way of reviewing it, then processing the data that I've saved. I also use sort of the voice recorder on my phone to, if I've got an idea in my head, I quickly talk into it, record it, save the voice note, and then share that to the same inbox in Notion. So that's a great way of sort of getting stuff out of your head, so allowing you to just not hold information, but focus on the tasks at hand. So the second part of this is then prioritizing what you need to work on. I won't go into detail about this because each person is different, and if something might work for you that's different for me. But all I'll say on this is you need to organize this expanding list of to-do lists. So whether it's results from your inbox or you've got a to-do list for the company you work for, you need to expand the information as needed, and then have some way of sort of ordering that. If you're in the software world, if you're watching this and you're in the software space, you've probably seen a Kanban board. I love the Kanban board style, even for my own personal projects. I love getting stuff into the release live column. It's just so rewarding. So a top tip for getting organized is check out the GTD framework, which stands for getting things done. And it's probably the best sort of task management framework I've ever used. And I've been sort of obsessed with productivity and getting organized for like over a decade now. So my third tip for getting organized is to batch tasks. If you break focus away from coding, it can take up to 30 minutes to get back into the flow, even longer if you're in deep concentration. So the aim is not to context switch, not to go, oh, I need to reply that email, then I'll try and do this bit of coding, or my boss is wanting me to do a review and I'll do that and then I'll get back to coding. You need to batch different admin tasks and do them in blocks. So like do these mundane tasks that people want you to do at the end of the day when you've used up most of like your retention tokens, jobs that don't take too much thinking about. If it isn't writing code, it isn't important. Another alternate thing I've done is say, if you've got sort of 3 more tasks that are similar and you need to get them done, I tend to do these at the start of the day. So like for me, as an example, I want to build like my personal brand on social media. So that means I have to do posts every day. I have to go engage with other people's content. So all my social media tasks are done together. So like if I try and sit down and write a few posts, I get nowhere. So what I do is like Saturday, Sunday morning, I schedule all the posts for that coming week. And then every morning I do sort of the social media engagement across the platform. So it gets it out of the way. Plus I'm not distracted with other things and I can get doing like deep focus on the coding for the project. Otherwise, all it does is just distracts me. If these things are sort of mulling around in your head, they're just a distraction. So the fourth and final tip about being more productive is to look after number one. So growing up, I knew a guy and he was like a surrogate big brother to me. Unfortunately, we lost him when I was about 16. He worked as a paramedic. And one of the things he taught me was to look after number one. And he said it's one of the most important things he learned as a paramedic. And the way he explained it is if you get called out and you're going to someone's injured and trying to help them, and then you get hurt when you're actually out there, you can't save the person that needs your help. And ultimately what will happen then is that the person the other paramedic will then be worried about you and also the person that you're trying to help. So that's where I've learned about looking after yourself is so important, and you need to focus on it. And looking after number one for me is your health and your fitness, and including your mental health. So as a developer, you might be sat at a desk all day. It's not very good for your body and your mind, indoors, fake light, hunched over a computer. Getting on top of your health and fitness and your mental health is brilliant for your overall productivity. So there's no point being more productive if you've no energy, you're always tired, you're stressed out, you're feeling overwhelmed. It does nothing for you. And I know I spent about 5 years sort of overlapping sort of 2020, the pandemic in 2020, feeling like that. I won't go into details, but for me, I've adopted a lifestyle to try and improve my diet as much as possible and focus on getting fitter every day. And one of the things I think is important is if you spend, say, an hour a day on your physical health, do the same for your mental health as well. Spend an hour on your mental health. And I sort of found on the back end of 2020, then into 21, 2022, that if I did my physical health, then my mental health, it just completely changed my day, and it was good. You want to know what kind of stuff I'm doing for health and fitness and what my regime looks like, reach out. I'm more than happy to chat shit about this. I love this sort of stuff. As a developer, coder, or an indie hacker, your concentration is your biggest asset. So you need to protect it at all costs. At the end of the day, being productive is about getting the best output you can from the limited amount of focus you've got each day. Some of my top 4 tips are: number 1, remove distractions. Number 2, get organized. Number 3, batch similar tasks together and do them at a separate time from coding. And finally, number 4 is look after number 1. Focus on your overall well-being. You'll find that you're more productive in less time, and also it'll increase the number of hours you're able to focus on as well. So it's taken me about a decade to put all these tips together and really use them in my day-to-day. And they've allowed me to be able to launch over 15 side projects. I'm currently involved in 3 startups. I work all full-time as well. I'm married too, and I still have a personal life. So it's important to be able to really get productive, to be able to increase your output. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I'd love it if you could subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to talk about more things about helping you as a developer and launching your own business. So subscribing to the channel would be a massive help to me. And also if you click the little bell icon, it'll let you every time I record and release a new video. Catch you later, Bill and Ted.